Trump mocked her intelligence on national TV, but Jasmine Crockett did instead shocked the nation. It was supposed to be a routine press conference. 10 minutes on education reform, 5 on border policy, then the usual handshakes. But from the moment President Trump stepped onto the stage at Carnegie Mellon, a symbol of elite innovation, nothing felt standard. Behind him, an American flag hung slightly crooked, flanked by oversized screens flashing talking points in bold blue font. Trump opened with familiar praise for teachers and touted record-breaking school funding. The crowd nodded along. Then a reporter from the Kansas City Ledger brought up Representative Jasmine Crockett's recent critique that the new education budget favored private schools and left public districts behind. Trump scoffed. "Oh, Jasmine Crockett," he said, glancing around the room for validation. "Yeah, I've heard of her. Real low IQ. Not exactly someone you take seriously." A sharp intake of breath swept through the press corps. A few nervous chuckles followed. The president smirked, brushing imaginary lint off his lapel like it was just another punchline, but the reaction was immediate. Reporters exchanged looks. Tweets flew. A video clip of the moment, edited and captioned in real time, hit 4 million views before the event even ended. Hashtags exploded. One question spread faster than the footage itself. Did he really just say that? What made it worse wasn't just the insult, it was who he targeted. Jasmine Crockett, a sitting congresswoman, a black woman, a lawyer, the daughter of 2 retired teachers, and the author of a detailed report on inequities in federal education funding. She'd come with facts. He responded with a smear. Backstage, Trump's communications director asked if they should address the backlash. "She wants attention." He waved her off. "We're not giving it to her." But the internet already was. By the time Trump left the stage, every major network had the clip queued up. Commentators called it a failure of decorum and a textbook smear. Still, Crockett said nothing. No tweets, no statements. Her social media accounts went silent. That silence became a story of its own. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News ran segments asking why she hadn't responded. But outside, the moment was becoming bigger than her. Reddit lit up with stories. "My mom's a teacher, she cried watching it." In Dallas, a waitress posted a selfie holding a handwritten sign. "If that's low IQ, I'm trying to be just like her." On TikTok, a high schooler asked, "Y'all ever notice how they never talk about what she said, just how she said it?" This wasn't politics anymore. It was personal. Crockett's last public words spoken the day before during a hearing were now resurfacing. You don't get to call something progress just because you like the people benefiting from it. One had used an insult. The other had brought substance. The contrast was stark. Inside a suite at the Darcy Hotel in D.C., Jasmine Crockett watched the storm unfold. Her chief of staff, Reuben Kilgore, stood by the window, tablet in hand, watching the news cycle shift. "They're gonna want blood, Jazz," he said, "either from you or from the silence." She didn't look up. "I'm not giving them what they expect." By morning, the media had moved from coverage to canonization. People weren't just defending her, they were quoting her. Footage from her years as a trial lawyer was going viral. A cross-examination clip from Dallas County hit 4.2 million views overnight. Natalie, her communications director, leaned in. "You've got 2 hours before someone hijacks the narrative. This isn't about fighting back," Jasmine said. "Everyone wants me to clap back, but what if I don't even say his name?" They all paused. Then Jasmine grabbed a pen and scribbled 2 words across a yellow legal pad. "Our terms, 1 camera, 1 anchor, no shouting, no crowd. I want people to hear what this kind of insult really costs, not just me, but every girl who's ever been told to smile and stay quiet." Natalie nodded. "Palmer will do it." Malcolm Palmer, host of the Palmer Night Show, wasn't flashy, but he was trusted. He listened. "You sure?" Reuben asked. Jasmine looked up. "I want them to see my face, and I want them to hear me." Live. That afternoon, while the White House tried to ignore the controversy, a digital billboard in Dallas lit up with Jasmine's photo and the words, "If that's low IQ, we're in good company." She hadn't said a word yet. Somehow, she'd already shifted the nation's pulse. The silence was about to end. "I'm not going on there to clap back," Jasmine said. "I'm going to say something people have felt their whole lives but never heard out loud." Natalie opened her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "We'll need talking points, visuals, a timeline." "No visuals," Jasmine interrupted. Both Natalie and Reuben looked up. "No charts, No edits. Just me, she said. One woman speaking like any woman watching from her kitchen. Natalie sighed but didn't argue. That tone from Jasmine wasn't a suggestion, it was a decision. Then Ruben's phone buzzed. He answered, nodded, twice, and hung up. Palmer's in. Prime slot. Tonight? Everything shifted. Less than 12 hours to prepare for what could be the most watched moment of her life. Natalie stood, already moving into strategy mode. Makeup by 4. Call your stylist. Brief Palmer's producer. Security's been doubled, you've got real heat in your inbox. Jasmine walked to the window and pulled the curtain wide. The city pulsed below cars, people, kids on bikes. Life went on, no matter whose name lit up the screens. Let's get to work, she said. But even as the clock ticked closer to airtime, Jasmine knew, once she spoke, there'd be no turning back. The leak didn't come from her team. It came from a junior producer at the Palmer Night Show, too stunned to keep quiet about what had just landed on their call sheet. By noon, whispers had begun circulating. Jasmine Crockett, live, no tape delay, no filters. In newsrooms across the country, producers rewrote rundowns mid-edit. At CNN, the evening lineup was overhauled. NBC's social team designed multiple thumbnails in anticipation of post-show clips. Capitol Hill staffers on both sides drafted preemptive statements, some defensive, some sharpened like blades. Inside Palmer Night's studio in Philadelphia, the mood wasn't frantic. It was focused. Palmer sat in his office surrounded by scribbled notes, highlighted articles, and a faded photo of Crockett from her law school days in Texas. He studied it for a moment, then told his assistant quietly, no fluff, no softballs, just let her speak. Back at the Darcy Hotel, Jasmine's suite buzzed with movement. Natalie paced with a phone pressed to her cheek. Yes. Hair and makeup at 3. No. She doesn't want contouring. Yes. I'm serious, she wants to look like herself. Jasmine sat on the edge of the bed in a slate gray pantsuit. She wasn't rehearsing talking points. She wasn't rehearsing at all. Ruben entered with 2 printed transcripts, Trump's press conference and one of her own speeches. Last chance to arm up, he said. She didn't even glance down. I'm not going to war, Ruben. I'm just telling the truth. He grinned. That's exactly what I'd say if I were going to war. Jasmine stood, adjusted her blazer, and looked at herself in the mirror. Not exhausted. Just worn like someone who'd been carrying weight no one saw. You ready? Natalie asked. Jasmine paused, then nodded. Let's go remind people what it looks like to fight without screaming. The drive to the studio was silent. Rain streaked the windows. No music. No small talk. Just the hum of wheels on wet pavement. The studio entrance. Security ushered her inside. A young intern offered her water, her voice trembling. We're honored to have you. Jasmine smiled. Thanks. I'm just here to talk. Inside the green room, Palmer's producer ran through logistics. No delay. Live broadcast. First question. Where's your head at today? That was all she needed. For the next 15 minutes, Jasmine sat alone, fingers laced, eyes closed, not meditating, not praying, just breathing. Across the country, people were getting ready too. Families gathered in living rooms. College students set up projectors. An elderly woman in Omaha pulled her chair closer to the screen. The White House. Trump's comes director sent him a text. She's going on Palmer. Live. His response, irrelevant, but no one else thought so. Fox News prepped rapid response. Legal teams drafted holding statements. They didn't know what she'd say, but they knew it would matter. When Jasmine stepped into the studio, the air felt colder than she expected, not from nerves, but from the stripped-down set. No city skyline, no lights dancing in the background, just a curved table, 2 chairs, and soft gold lighting. Palmer was already seated, reading his notes. He didn't look up as she sat down across from him. No smiles, no greetings, just readiness. In the control room. 5, 4, 3, no theme music, no montage, just a slow fade in Palmer's voice. We're here tonight with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. No formal introduction. Let's get to it. Jasmine, where's your head at? Today? Silence. Jasmine looked at him. Then she looked past him into the camera, into living rooms, into classrooms and hospital break rooms, into all the places where people were waiting for someone to finally say what they've always known. I'm tired, she said. The words hung there. Not because I'm weak. Not because I can't handle being called a name. But because I've spent most of my adult life being told I don't belong in rooms I had every right to walk into. Palmer stayed silent. When you're a woman like me, black, outspoken, unapologetically smart people don't argue with your ideas. They attack your value, your brain, your right to speak. A tight camera angle showed her face, calm, steady, resolute. I didn't come here to defend my intelligence. I came to remind people why I ran for office. My father taught science in Waxahachie, Texas. My mom taught third grade for 31 years. They didn't ask for praise. They asked for resources. She paused. And this week, when I asked why public schools get scraps while elite schools get tax breaks, I was called low IQ by the President of the United States. Still no anger, just precision. But this isn't about me. It's about what we tolerate. Who gets to define intelligence? Palmer finally asked. Some would say you've been silent until now. Why wait? She looked at him. Because I needed to know if people still listen when you don't yell. She continued. I didn't want a viral clip. I wanted a message for that girl in Fort Worth who was told she asked too many questions. For the woman in Milwaukee whose boss calls her aggressive every time she speaks with clarity. Online, the live chat exploded. Too fast to read, too much to contain. Palmer leaned forward. Do you forgive him? The question landed hard. Jasmine stared back, unblinking. I don't think this moment is about forgiveness, she said. It's about reflection. About asking who we've let speak for us and over us for far too long. Backstage, Natalie finally exhaled. Ruben stood still, watching the monitor. Palmer closed his notepad and said, last words are yours. Jasmine turned back to the camera. If someone ever tells you you're too much, too loud, too bold, too smart, she said, remember who benefits when you shrink and who loses when you don't. The screen faded to black. No applause. No outro music. But the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was electric, charged with the kind of stillness that carries weight. By the time the broadcast ended, people weren't going to bed, they were reaching for their phones. Parents on the night shift paused outside their children's rooms, standing quietly in the doorway a few seconds longer. Bartenders left the TV on while they swept peanut shells from the floor. In a tiny apartment outside Tallahassee, a nursing student sat on the edge of her mattress and whispered to no one. She said it. She didn't even raise her voice. Something had shifted. Not in a headline-grabbing, political earthquake kind of way. This was quieter, deeper. It hid in the places where people had swallowed their frustration for so long, they forgot what it felt like to be seen. By sunrise, the clip had more than 48 million views. Hashtags like hashtag smart like Crockett and hashtag tired but still here trended across platforms. But what surprised everyone wasn't just the volume, it was the tone. The comments weren't partisan attacks or political soundbites. They were confessions, testimonies. On Instagram, a man in Albuquerque wrote, my mom worked 2 jobs and still got called stupid at PTA meetings by people in suits. Thank you for showing the world what intelligence really looks like. A high school junior in STT. Lewis posted a video from her bedroom. Every time I raise my hand in class, it gets quiet, like people are waiting for me to mess up. Tonight, it felt like someone finally said that out loud. Even TikTok, more known for trends than truth, turned into a space for quiet courage. A mechanic in Little Rock filmed himself wrapping a shop towel that said low IQ around a wrench, then tossing it in the trash. Heard that my whole life, he said. Not anymore. Palmer's network servers couldn't keep up. The full interview crashed twice from demand. Other stations started replaying it hourly. Shows that had never booked Crockett were suddenly begging for airtime. Everyone wanted to be close to that rare thing, calm fire. A refusal to flinch without needing to shout. But the moment that said the most didn't happen online. It happened. In a diner just outside Boise, a man in a red Trump 2024 cap was having breakfast with his daughter. The clip replayed above the coffee station. He didn't say a word, just watched. His daughter, 13, maybe 14, looked up. She's kind of right, though, she said softly. He didn't argue. He didn't change the channel. He just sipped his coffee and nodded. The ripple kept moving. A rare bipartisan statement from teachers' unions read, no matter your politics, respect is not negotiable, especially when it comes from those who educate our children. A-list actors, athletes, authors added their voices. One actress tweeted, if that's low IQ, I want a brain like hers. A former NBA star posted the clip with the caption, That's not shade. That's sunlight. But the one voice still missing? Jasmine's. She didn't tweet. She didn't post a thank you. No media rounds. No statement. That morning, she was alone in her suite, sitting cross-legged on the floor, rereading an old letter from her father, the one he gave her when she passed. The bar exam dot in his careful, slanted handwriting. It read, "You don't have to shout to be strong. Just stand still and let the room adjust to your truth." She folded the letter and slipped it into her bag. There were more interview requests than she could count, offers, panels, headlines waiting to be written. She ignored them all. Instead, she picked up the phone and called Ruben. "Morning," he answered, his voice hoarse. "Are people still watching?" she asked. He laughed. "They're not just watching. They're repeating your lines like scripture." "Good," she said. "Then let's not do a press tour. What do you want to do?" "Something that reminds people this isn't performance." "Where?" "A school." "Texas?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, somewhere they won't expect me." But while Jasmine was planning her next quiet step, not everyone was ready to let the moment settle. President Trump had seen the interview twice, from his phone, alone, and he was stewing. By morning, he was boarding Air Force One bound for Phoenix. It was supposed to be a rally about border policy, designed to shore up suburban support. But by the time he landed, the country's attention was still stuck on Crockett, cable news, late-night shows. Even right-wing radio couldn't stop dissecting her calm refusal to engage. On the plane, he watched her face flicker across his screen. Again and again, he squinted at the video, barely listening to his aide read off local poll numbers. "She didn't even say my name," he muttered. "She thinks that makes her smarter." Then louder, to no one in particular. "She thinks that makes her smarter." By the time he stepped off the plane into the desert heat, he was already rewriting the rally in his head. The crowd was loud but not the same. Flags waved, music blasted, but there was a different energy now, less frenzy, more curiosity. He took the stage like always, confident, combative. "So I heard Jasmine Crockett had her little TV moment last night," he said. "She went on that fancy show. Didn't mention me once." "No, why?" "Because she can't handle me." A few scattered. Cheers, polite claps, but no roar. "I mean, Loic, sorry, it's true. You don't get to throw tantrums about school budgets and call it intelligence." Some laughed, but in the fifth row, a woman in a red, white, and blue visor turned to her husband. "She didn't throw a tantrum," she said. "Did you even watch it?" He didn't answer. Trump kept pacing, his voice louder now, trying to fill the quiet. "They say she's smart because she stayed calm. I don't need calm. I need people who get things done." But the more he talked, the more obvious it became. He wasn't commanding the room. He was chasing it. On Twitter, local reporters noted the drop in energy. "Crowd unusually quiet during Crockett remarks," one wrote. "Shift in tone." Even conservative pundits were hesitant. "I don't agree with her politics," one Fox host said, "but I watched that interview twice." Hard to attack someone who just told the truth. Meanwhile, Jasmine still hadn't said a word. She wasn't tweeting. She wasn't reacting. She was prepping for a school visit. Her team fielded press requests. Natalie answered them all the same way. She said what she needed to say. Backstage in Phoenix, Trump veered off script, lashing out at other names. The crowd's attention slipped. His punchlines landed flat. That night, headlines didn't talk about his rally. They talked about how for once he wasn't the one driving the story. Inside Crockett's temporary HQ, Ruben sat at a folding table, watching the rally on mute. Natalie walked in with two coffees. "He go after her?" "Of course," Ruben said. "Tried to take the story back." "Did it work?" He clicked pause and shook his head. "Not even close. No high fives, no champagne. Because this wasn't about winning a moment. It was about holding a tone, and Jasmine had done that without ever raising her voice. 2 days after the Palmer interview, Jasmine Crockett stood outside Franklin Middle School in Dayton, Ohio. No cameras, no stage, no press releases, just students in blue polos and a teacher's smile that said more than words ever could. The principal, Miss Clarice Winton, shook her hand. "I know why you came," she said softly. "And thank you." Jasmine nodded. "I didn't want this to become noise. I wanted it to land somewhere real. Franklin wasn't chosen by chance. It was a Title I school where most students came from homes fighting to stay afloat. where being smart didn't mean having everything. It meant finding strength in the silence, and Jasmine had come to show them, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just stand still and speak the truth. The building had aging windows, a broken intercom, and a library that hadn't seen new books in over 5 years. The staff did what they could with what they had, but everyone knew it wasn't enough. The students, though, they were electric, smart, loud, curious. A girl with thick braids raised her hand the moment Jasmine stepped into the gym. Did you really not get mad when he called you dumb? Straight-faced. A few kids giggled. Jasmine smiled. Oh, I got mad, she said. But I've learned not everyone deserves to see your anger. Some people just need to see you keep going. That answer didn't just quiet the girl, it hung in the room like chalk dust. It lingered. They didn't do a formal assembly. No speeches. Just a circle on the gym floor. Jasmine, a handful of 8th graders, and 2 teachers leaning against the bleachers. She didn't talk at them. She asked questions. Where do you want to go? What feels unfair in your classroom? What makes you feel smart? What makes you feel small? A boy with chipped glasses said, sometimes I know the answer, but I don't say it. 'Cause if I get it wrong, people laugh. Jasmine nodded. That's fear talking. But what if I told you the bravest person in the room is the one who speaks up even when they might mess up? He looked down, then back up and smiled. Word of her visit spread fast. A cafeteria worker snapped a photo of Jasmine leaning over a student's science project. The caption said, she came here instead of another interview. That says enough. Clips from the school visit surfaced online that evening, not from her team, but from teachers, parents, students. One video showed her helping a girl draft a letter to Congress about music funding. I'm not asking for miracles, the student wrote, just better drums. The post went viral. Hashtag better drums trended by nightfall. But this time, it wasn't just a hashtag. It was traction. A news anchor in Des Moines opened his segment. While politicians talk in circles, Representative Jasmine Crockett spent her afternoon where it counts, on the floor of a public school library, listening. School boards across the country started reaching out, not for photo ops, but for real conversations. She's making it real, said a superintendent in Minnesota. When she talks about education, it's not a debate, it's a mirror. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't do a media blitz. Her only public statement was a handwritten note pinned to a bulletin board in a school hallway in Akron, Ohio. Don't just defend your intelligence, use it. That line made its way into lesson plans, onto classroom walls, into teachers' lounges. In one Oakland high school, the principal held a morning assembly asking every teacher to share a time they felt dismissed early in their career. Some laughed, some cried, all connected it back to Jasmine, not because of a name, but because of a feeling. By now, it wasn't about Trump. It wasn't even about politics. It was about being seen. Jasmine was already back in D.C. quietly, drafting a bill to tie federal school funding to infrastructure needs. Her inbox overflowed with letters from students, some messy, some typed. One from a boy in El Paso read, I used to think I wasn't smart enough, but maybe I just need more chances. But this story wasn't finished, because the most personal shift wasn't legislative. It came on a quiet Sunday morning when Jasmine returned home to Waco, Texas. No reporters, no motorcade, just Jasmine, a rental car, and a white house with peeling siding. Her mother, Eloise, answered the door in a floral robe, holding a mug of tea. You came all this way, she said with a smile, and didn't even tell me. Jasmine shrugged and pulled her into a hug. Inside, the house smelled like cedar, oil, and old books. Her father, Samuel, sat in his usual recliner, a half-finished crossword in his lap. He looked up, surprised, but didn't speak. He just pointed toward the kitchen table, like she'd never left. They sat in silence, sipping coffee. Muted on the TV, a clip from Jasmine's school visit played. Her father reached for the remote. She stopped him. Leave it, she said. It's weird, but let it play. He chuckled. Your mama cried when she saw that clip. Twice. I know, Jasmine said. Natalie told me. Her mother joined them at the table. I wanted to call you, she said softly, but I figured everyone else already had. I didn't answer most of them, Jasmine replied. I just needed to be quiet for a while. Then came the question that had been waiting in the air. Samuel asked, why didn't you go at him harder? Jasmine looked up. Because that would have made it about him, she said. And I'm tired of everything being about him. He nodded slowly. People think calm means weak, he said. I know, Jasmine said, but I didn't want to match his energy. I wanted to change the room. Alois reached across the table, placed her hand gently on hers. You did. They talked for hours about the leaky faucet, the new principal at the high school, the Christmas cards still arriving from her 5th grade teacher. Then her mother asked, do you know what this really meant, baby? Jasmine looked up. It wasn't about proving I'm smart. It was about reminding people they don't have to fight every battle with their fists. Outside, a boy on a red scooter rolled by, caught sight of Jasmine through the window, and skidded to a stop. He blinked. Yo, that's her. That's the lady from TV. Then took off down the block, yelling. Jasmine laughed. Guess I'm famous in my old neighborhood now. You always were, her dad said. Back in DC, her office was quiet. A stack of thank you letters covered her desk, many from names she didn't recognize. One envelope stood out, postmarked Jackson, Mississippi. Inside was a sheet of notebook paper, written in shaky pencil. Dear Miss Jasmine, I saw you on the TV. My mom said you was brave. I want to be brave too. Love, Kyrie. She pinned the note to her bulletin board and stared at it for a long time. This wasn't campaign momentum. It wasn't a press cycle. It was legacy. The kind that doesn't shout. It whispers. It shifts the way people see themselves, from problems to be fixed, to voices worth hearing. 2 weeks after the storm, long after the clip stopped trending, Jasmine stood alone at the edge of a community garden in Southeast DC. No staff, no press, just a hoodie, a crate of starter plants, and dirt under her fingernails. The same garden she'd volunteered at before politics, before Palmer, before low IQ meant anything to anyone. She planted a crooked tomato vine that probably wouldn't survive the summer, but she planted it anyway. Behind her, the gate creaked open. You're not very stealthy, she said without turning. Ruben stepped in, carrying a water jug. Figured if you were hiding, you'd be here. I'm not hiding, she said. I'm grounding. He knelt beside her. Good call, DC. Dirt's rude though. They laughed. They worked. She planted. He watered. You feel different now? He asked. Not really, she said. But people treat me like I'm different. That's heavier than I expected. He nodded. You gave them something they didn't know they needed. She looked across the rows of sprouting greens and barren patches. I didn't want to be a symbol, she said. Just someone who's been ignored before. Speaking. He handed her a folded paper. Another letter? She asked. From a teacher in Flint, he said. Played your interview in class. Ask students what intelligence means. She unfolded it. One student had written, being kind when you don't have to be. Jasmine blinked, folded it back. That kid gets it. What happened that night on Palmer wasn't a victory lap. It was the result of years spent being dismissed, interrupted, talked over. She hadn't yelled. She hadn't shrunk. She'd stood still and let the truth adjust the room. She reminded people, young, old, cynical, hopeful, that sometimes you don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to mean it. Later that week, back on Capitol Hill, Jasmine returned to her office. Her staff filtered in, folders in hand. Let's talk school infrastructure, she said. No more attention. Time for action. No mention of the insult. No need. The real response would be a result. That night, walking to her car beneath the soft orange wash of the city's streetlights, a woman crossing the street caught her eye. She didn't ask for a selfie, didn't say her name, just met Jasmine's gaze and said, "Thank you." Jasmine smiled, said nothing, because sometimes the loudest message is the one you leave behind.